Daddy, we're doing.
I'm doing a podcast, Dizzy. Hello and welcome to the Too Cool for School podcast. I'm your host, Yannick, and on today's episode, I've got a special guest with me. She's an educator, a youth advocate, a social media personality, and she is the voice of the people, and I'll allow her to introduce herself.
Thank you so much. When you say I'm the voice of the people, I'm a bit shy now. But my name's Joy. It's lovely to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation to share with you. I'm an educator, I'm a teacher, I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, but I care about young people more than anything else. Young people have been the people that I've been called to serve since I was a young child myself. Actually, I've been leading and teaching and serving in my local church and beyond. Found myself in the classroom 10 years ago, and here I am today.
That's great. And I think, when I think about our experiences as, young educators, like many people see us and think, oh, you know what they're doing, amazing work, they're pillars of the community and
Sure.
whatever else. And I think every educator has to sort of look back and reflect on, their sort of educational experiences growing up. And I know for me, in all honesty, I've got friends and, maybe family that will look back and think, Yannick's, educational journey or trajectory in school, wasn't always plain sailing, especially behaviour-wise.
Sure.
Academically, no issues. Like there was no issues academically, but behaviour-wise, depending on who you speak to, touch and go, exactly. So it will be good to know, because many people see you online who don't know you personally and just see you, in your sort of role as, speaker, youth advocate, educator. So it would be good, for our listeners and our audience to get a sense of, what was your educational journey growing up and what view or perception did that give you of education overall?
Sure. I found school really boring, actually. The classroom was torture for me. Oh, my goodness. I don't know. I just found it really boring. And I think now I look back and I think I have issues with my attention span, right? In terms of the way that my mind works, it's really hard for me to concentrate on things for an extended period of time. And as we know, the classroom requires children to sit still and to focus on things that aren't inherently interesting to them. Of course, it's valuable, but it's not interesting. And depending on the teacher, they're not often making it as interesting as they potentially could make it. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so my journey, actually, I had a lot of issues with low-level disruption. That's what people would call it. That's what we, that kind of talking, the teachers talking, getting sent out. But my dad was very much about making us strong women, making us strong full stop. But he had all girls, so we were strong women. So he required us to challenge authority. So they found me a bit annoying at times. I was a bit... So they called it arrogant. I wasn't arrogant. I was confident. And I think that is something as well. I'm sure we'll get into this, but because of how I looked, arrogance was what they went for as opposed to confident or assertive, Yeah. So I was always talking in class. I didn't really care about education, but I loved to read. And so you'd often catch me like reading under the table. If I got caught and they sent me out, I'd pack my book. I'd be like, all right, miss, thanks. And I'd go outside and I'd read there. Reading was my love. Reading was my passion. I think that really saved me. I didn't care too much for my GCSEs, if I'm going to be honest with you. I kind of revised for the things that I thought I was going to fail. I remember music, you was looking tight. What was it? Science, another one. And maths. Those ones I read for. Everything else...
Maths is always a killer.
Maths, but everything else, I just went in there. I just went with a pen and a prayer. I said, God, please help me out. And it was so lazy. I was a lazy student. And my parents would grieve. They would beg me. They'd say to me, you're smart. You have potential. But I think actually... in everybody telling me I had potential, that also made me feel as though I couldn't live up to what they were saying, what they were seeing in me. And they grew this fear that what if I work hard and I fail? So what I decided to do was not do anything and tell myself the lie that if I'd worked, I would have gotten the A.
That's interesting.
And it became not quite an Achilles heel, but it stifled me, actually. So yeah, I think that was my journey. It was actually when I got my GCSE results and there were more letters, different letters than I thought they were going to be. Remember I said I was a bit cocky, so I thought it'll be all right on the day. It wasn't all right on the day. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't exceptional on the day. Okay. And I think I tasted failure, and I said, I'm never going to taste this in my mouth again. I said, never again. So my A-levels, I worked like my life depended on it. And I just was February. They're in June, the A-levels. I would come back and I would work February. I just would work.
Yeah.
And I had to relearn the curriculum. Like I said at the very beginning of this response, I haven't got a good attention span. So in the classroom, I'm not necessarily taking in everything the teacher's saying. So I have to start revising earlier than everybody else in order to learn the content, then revise the content, and then be able to be examined on the content.
Yeah.
And so that was really my journey from one of kind of low-level disruption queen, loved outside of the classroom. We can talk about that as well.
Yeah.
Like, loved my peers and stuff like that. But inside was really challenging. So when I felt like I was being called to the classroom as an adult, I wept. Because what do you mean?
Yeah.
I thought I was meant for the big stage.
Yeah.
How can I be a class? You know, as a young person, teachers are a bit like,
Is there no teacher that stood out for you? Like, is there no teacher that you look back and you think, do you know what? Like, this teacher, like they were either a good teacher or they made me love this subject beyond how I could imagine, or even if it was like the pastoral care of just supporting you in a way that allowed you to navigate, through school, and be successful. Is there anyone that stood out for you?
So my head of year, Miss Powell, I'll never not say her name.
Big up Miss Powell.
Listen, I'm going to send her this clip. You know, she messaged me to be like, hi, she still remembers my birthday.
Yeah.
I left school 15 years ago. What do you mean you remember my birthday? So she is an incredible woman, but she was I don't have the word to encompass the love and the grace that she showed us as girls. She empowered us. She made us feel seen. And I'll never forget what she invested in me, because now I'm a teacher. I know that she didn't have to do that. She was my head of year. I actually don't think I ever had a teacher, and that's I don't want to be too hard on them. But in terms of that kind of, I'm going to be your engine, I'm going to work with you and for you to get you over the line, I never had that. I never had that. But I did have a couple of teachers, one being Miss Glenn, who I met in Nonsuch. That was a grammar school that I went to. She told me that there were 30 responses that could come up in my A-level exam. And I said, okay, cool, I'm going to write every single essay, and then I'm going to ask you to mark every essay, get it to an A star, and then I'm going to learn the essays. Like I said, I was ready to get the A. That's what I wanted at the A-level.
That's crazy. 30 essays.
30, and she marked every single one.
Wow.
For me, she wasn't like, she didn't give me the idea. And that's what I mean about, what I was doing in education, or I'm doing in education, is like, I am your engine, I'll do the work for you. She said, okay, cool, I'm going to work with you and we're going to get this done. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think she's somebody that stands out to me. And then my English teacher, I can't remember her name anymore, but she loved English. She loved it so much that every year she taught the same poem, but she would cry every year.
Wow.
And whoa.
It did something for her.
What are you crying about? You read this last year.
Yeah,
but she's still crying. And I think that passion really spoke to me. And I remember being 15 in her classroom and thinking, wow, to love language in this way. And so I think those are moments, but I don't know, I never really, apart from Miss Powell, I didn't have a classroom teacher who took me under their wing in that way and pushed me forward. I didn't see that.
Yeah. No, that's interesting, man. And you spoke earlier about the love that you felt from, Miss Powell.
Yeah.
And that's not something that many teachers do for their students, because it's not necessarily an expectation.
Right.
However, it goes without saying the impact that love has for, a student goes beyond what, many can even anticipate. And I felt that with some of my teachers growing up. It was just that love, that encouragement, Miss Waldron in drama, that just, Yan, go do your thing, man. Like, just go do your thing, like act, direct and whatever else. Like, there's something. And even if, and she really tried to push me into like drama and acting and whatever, and Mumsy weren't on it. Of course. Even though that, that sort of route didn't really come to pass. Like within the classroom, you know, she just like encouraged me, you know, so much. Like Miss Martian, my A-level teacher, and I still speak to her now. I still call her Miss now.
Yeah, of
She's
course.
like, nope.
They never stop being Miss.
Yeah, they never stop being Miss. To be honest, it's the same with me. I tell
yeah.
my former students, don't call me sir.
Really?
But I really think it's about, I hate that. I really hate, just call me.
If my student said, "Oh, you're right, Joy," I would be. It would.
Nah, call me Yannick.
Really?
Yeah, call me Yannick. The surfing, I don't know. Like, I think, because this is way off topic. I remember going, because when I started my role as head of year, I was 26.
Okay.
So I was quite young at the time. And I remember that summer, I went to Hyde Park. With
Okay,
a couple of
yeah.
Demandem. And we were in Hyde Park, doing Hyde Park things in the summer.
I hear you.
And I heard, sir. All the man them looked at me like, bro, is this what's happening? And I just, maybe it was a trauma response.
Yeah.
I'm just like, no one
No,
call me.
I understand.
No one call me
I
sir
understand.
beyond that role. But I think, you know, the relationships that we have with our students really depends on the character of the personnel, the person that's, you know, supporting them, teaching them, being their pastoral carer. I used to see myself as more of a Mr. Miyagi in Karate Kid.
Okay.
You won't know, or a bit like Coach Carter, you won't know what I've done for you until it's like, because I'm not showing you like the love like that, but I'm showing you love in like indirect ways.
Sure.
Then after it's like, I see what Sir's done for me, and I see, and everyone's been able to, you know, appreciate that. And you only see it, you know, after. You don't really see it, you know, in the moment. So, you know, you've had those experiences in school. You've gone to sixth form, uni, etc. So what's made you pursue a career in teaching? Like, when was that point that you said, I want to become a teacher?
The answer to that is really long and we'd be here all day. But in summary, after I finished university, I didn't really know what I was going to do. And I started kind of doing a bit of interning work with an organisation that my dad was a kind of chair on the chair board for. Yeah. And it was working with schools, primary schools. And although I wasn't working directly with the students, I found that I liked speaking to the students a lot more than I liked speaking to my colleagues. Now, I just put this down to me being immature. Of course, I'm 21 at the time. I don't really know what corporate life is. Then there's some issues with that workplace, and I have to kind of terminate my contract with them. And my mum says to me, you need to go and qualify and be a teacher. I'm not trying to hear that. My mum was a head teacher, by the way. And if you look at my mum, you see me. So whenever you have a child who's similar to you, everything's clashing all the time. Yeah. So I'm not trying to hear it at all. Then I start teaching Sunday school in my church, just because I'm enjoying it. And my sister, who's moved to the States at the time, says to me, Joy, like, every time you speak about teaching these kids, you seem really happy. Have you ever considered teaching? I haven't, respectfully. Thank you so much. And then my uncle, this is in the space of like a week, by the way. Wow. My uncle says to me, he hears what's happening with my current job and all this kind of he says to me, you need to go and qualify to be a teacher. No one can take that away from you. And I said, okay, cool. God, I hear what you're saying. And I think it's this idea of surrender, right? Because I have, at this point, by the way, like you, did drama, I sing, act, all of those things. I've been writing plays since I was like 14. So my idea was to kind of do what my parents wanted me to do, which was to get a degree, do that, and then afterwards the world was going to be mine. Yeah. But everybody was telling me the world is not going to be yours, the classroom is going to be yours. I was annoyed, I was upset, I grieved, but I said, you know what? I'm going to be obedient to what everybody is saying. Because I think if different people keep telling you the same thing, people call it the universe, whatever you want to call it. If 5, 6, 7 people are telling you the same thing or the same word keeps coming back to you, don't put it down. It's not coincidence. It's the next step for you. Yeah. I said, okay, what do I need to do in order to do this? I went to become a teaching assistant in a school in South London. And I loved it. And everybody kept saying to me, oh, no one ever leaves. Like, you think you're going to be a teacher, but really you're going to be a TA for the rest of your days. And I was thinking, yeah, but maybe you lot don't know about me, but I would work. You know, back then you had to pass certain exams in order to become a teacher. So every break time, every lunch time, I just sit there doing maths. I told you my maths wasn't great. So I had to try to make sure that I could pass the math test. And in that process, I found that when I was teaching or assisting, because sometimes I would do little like intervention groups as you do, I would find that when I could teach a child a concept that they didn't know before and we'd work together and they'd get it, I would experience a sense of fulfillment that the stage never gave me. Because I've been performing, I was part of the National Youth Theatre, I'd done Dream Girls in Fairfield Halls, I'd done these kind of big stages and I was loving it. But every time the applause would come, I'd be looking forward to curtain call. I'd feel this hollow sense that it wasn't enough. And I was only 16, so I don't know what I think it was all the reading. I just had this sense of purpose, this greater fulfillment that I should feel if I was doing what I was meant to be doing, what I was called to. When those kids would get the answer right, I would feel that this is what I'm here to do. And that's what I said, okay, cool. When I did my PGCE and then ended up in the classroom.
That's amazing, man. And that's amazing. And I'm sure there's many students and many, staff members that are thankful for you, pursuing that avenue. And as wanted to ask as well, as a black female senior leader within the school, how important is your perspective like within education? And I ask that because one of the things that I'm conscious of is on the importance of representation, sure, especially within education. And I think in my role, it was, it was good being a middle leader within the school, and I felt that, I definitely had impact with the young people, with the students, with the parents, with staff members. But I feel that being a senior leader just offers a different, sort of contribution to the ethos and the culture of the school, which I didn't have, or I didn't feel I had a privilege to contribute to, or the opportunity to offer my perspectives of what I feel would benefit, the school community and the students. Sure. So I think, being a black female teacher and senior leader, like, how important do you think your perspectives is to education?
It's interesting. As a senior leader, I'm not sure if I've felt that representation has mattered as much as it did when I was head of curriculum, when I was head of English, the English department. I think that was the most significant moment in my career in terms of representation, because what the curriculum looked like after I was finished with it, no other person could have done that if they didn't look like me and tick the boxes that I fill in on the form. So there's books like Of Mice of Men. We're not reading that. Why are we still reading a book where the only black character is called the N-word throughout, is disabled, and is never spoken to with respect? There's nothing wrong with disability, let me be clear, but that's the only depiction that these kids are going to see of black characters. Not just the fact that he is disabled. Forget that, put that to the side. But he's treated badly because of a disability, because he's black. It's the complexities of his oppression are so layered. But because you are thinking about this American dream, you can't see it. You're just sad that Lenny kicked, George has to kill Lenny. Oh, that's so sad. Yeah. Curly's wife is unnamed throughout. What is her name? And why is she portrayed in that way? But because I'm a woman and I understand that in my culture, women are referred to in response to their husbands, i.e. this is this person's wife. That becomes her name. I understand how diminishing that is as a woman. And so I read the text differently. This is important. So when I'm picking books and people are coming to me, oh, let's put this on I want to put Shakespeare here. Why? Because they're going to study in year 11. Yeah, and they still don't understand it. So tell me why you want to give them in year 7. Tell me why. You think they're going to learn this language in 6 weeks? No, they're not. So when I'm making people who are head of Key Stage 3, head of Key Stage 4, justify to me why these particular students who live in this area need to read this text. And I keep asking them the same question. Suddenly we're making moves. They understand, oh, it's not about what I think they deserve. It's about what they actually need in order to be seen in the classroom. And so while I do appreciate that being a senior leader it's such a privilege. I can't negate the privileges that I've had to sit around that table and be instrumental in making decisions. I think in terms of impact, that will go down as the thing that I am most proud of, because it's really hard to change curriculum. It's hours of work. I spent hours doing that after school, to the point that my head teacher at the time said, Joy, I think you should start going home. It's 8 o'clock, I'm in the building. That's how long it takes to change curriculum. And for someone to change it again, it's going to take that work. Who's going to do that work? So at least for the next, I did that curriculum, I started the curriculum in 2020. At least for the next 2-3 years, those kids will still be able to see themselves in the curriculum. And I think that is greater than any position I can have around the table.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing to hear. And what challenges have you faced in leadership that you feel has had an impact on your role in terms of being able to do what you want to do, like within the school setting? Because I assume that if I'm not mistaken, like different senior leaders have like different roles,
Sure.
like within the school. So like curriculum, safeguarding, operations and whatever else. Could you detail like what your role was?
Sure. I'm not sure how interesting it will be to you, but actually it's really in line with who I am. Actually, I was assistant head teacher of community and culture, so that was cool. In terms of challenges, I think that as a leader, irrespective of the setting that you're in, you will face challenges. I had the great privilege of leading a drama group. I started a theatre group when I was about 16 or 17 with a group of my friends, and I did that for about 10 years. And there I was a leader. And I think a lot of the challenges that I faced there first. I think there I learned how to lead by example. You have to be seen working harder than everybody else. You should be working harder than everybody else. As a leader, I think as a teacher, always being willing to learn from everybody around you, not just the people that you call your colleagues, not just your peers, the people that you're leading, the students that you're leading, learning from them as well. I think in terms of challenges, there are always going to be challenges in leadership. But being a person of integrity, being somebody who can be trusted, being someone who can lead by example and is ready to do the work. You can't not respect somebody who's ready to go to. If I'm here at 8 o'clock and here by 7 a.m, you understand that I mean what I say. I'm about what I say I'm about. And that helped me to overcome any challenges that were in the way of me getting the work done.
No, that's important. That's important. Thank you for sharing. I wanted to talk as well about we're both parents,
Sure.
and we've had sort of discussions outside of this about parenthood, and I think one of the things that I'm always conscious of, even though my son's still young, he's in nursery, but it's about schooling, and I've got a big fear of that because I've seen the amazing things that can happen within the education system. I've seen, amazing teachers, amazing school establishments. But in that same respect, I've also seen school establishments where it's not so great. I've seen teachers that aren't amazing. I've seen cultures within schools that I think to myself, if I was a parent and my son came to this school, I would be fuming. And I want to ask, like, how does being a parent sort of influence both your approach to teaching and your role, like as a school leader? How does you being a parent contribute to that?
It's really interesting because I've been teaching for far longer than I've been a mother. And I always thought that when I had my child, I would feel this sense of love that I've never felt before, right? That's what they always speak about, like a mother's love all of that stuff. And when I became a mother, I was like, oh no, I've been feeling this. I've always been a mother. They just weren't my children, but I've loved these children for a long time. And so I think that ability to love children who do not belong to you is something that I've always just had in me. That ability to mother and to nurture and to go above and beyond for young people, it's just always existed. What the added layer of being a parent has done for me, it's made me go harder, I think. It's given me more empathy for parents. I think, actually, now I'm thinking about it, I think before I was a bit of a judgy one. I'll tell you. No, actually, I understand now. If nursery run is here and my husband's left me here, my partner's doing this to me, I've got 5 kids, we can't get a new house. All of these things mean maybe I can't read to my child. Maybe I don't know how to read. Maybe I don't understand this system. I've got a lady who called me the other day. She said, they haven't given my child the school that I want her to have. What should I do? She doesn't know what to do. I'm like, okay, cool. Send me this, send me that. Let me see if I can help you. And that's what I try and do for people in my community because they don't really know the know-how. And I feel like before I was a parent, I didn't have as much grace for parents as I do now. It's so interesting online when people are trying to drag me. They say, "Oh, are you a parent? Are you a parent?" Because they think I'm just a teacher. I'm like, no, I'm a parent and I have this view. Then there's other teachers. Are you a teacher? That you just no, I'm a teacher and a parent. I think having these two, especially as a woman, because people are quick to invalidate my opinion just based on how I look. I'm a teacher and a parent, and so it means I'm seeing both sides of the fence. And this is why I think that parents, this is what you need to be doing better, and teachers is what I think you need to be doing better. And you can disagree with me if you want, but you can't invalidate my opinion based on my inexperience, because now I have experience in both fields.
Yeah, no, that's important, and I think I resonate with that as well. That feeling of, like having love for the students, and sometimes I look back and sometimes I think that's why I went so hard on them. And it's like they're not seeing. It's like you're not seeing this what I'm doing, but it's because I care, because this person like is not doing what like I'm doing for you. Like even the little things like beyond the classroom, it's you're going outside, you're playing football with them. Like I could go home, I could literally go home, but it's like I know some weeks it was you've got football club, but if I don't come, you're not gonna go and do an extracurricular activity. So I'm now going football club, I'm now getting my colleague to come so he can play on the other team. And now it's like we've got all the kids out. Oh, Mr. Bedita, Mr. Tomlin's playing.
That's so nice.
Everyone's coming out. Football, basketball. Or even if the girls are doing netball, I'll come every week. So what's the positions? Who scored? Like I'm watching them and I'm interacting. So are you going to come and watch, netball? Chess. I don't know how to play chess. I'm just there watching. All right, cool. Who's the best? Like you're giving them that love. You're giving them that attention, and it's just about going above and beyond, and making them have those experiences which it may just be 30-40 minutes of you running around, but now they've gone home where home might not be a good space for them, but they're in a better mood. It's like, you know what? Yeah, I've ended the day, good at school. So as a parent as well, I wanted to ask, because this is something I always think about, especially when it comes to teachers. What's going to be the deciding factor, or what do you look for when you're thinking about a school for your child? Because I already know what kind of... I'm waiting for my first parents' evening. I dare anyone to say anything. And I won't say anything. I won't say what I do. I won't say my expertise. I'll just listen. Yeah, cool. If I'm not happy with it, it's long. But yeah, what's your deciding factor?
Do you know, I haven't thought that far ahead. I think I'm quite a peculiar teacher in that I think school is really important, but I think the home is more important than anything else. And so I'm spending these opening years just trying to be the best parent that I can be and deciding what the curriculum is in my home. What do I believe the values are? What the tenets here? What does it mean to be in this home and be my child? What values do I want you to exemplify outside of the home? How do I want you to behave? So I'm doing a lot of reading, a lot of thinking, a lot of internal work to be the best parent I can be. Because when you go to whatever school you go to, they cannot decide who you become. They just can't, unless I haven't decided what you are going to become. Do you know what I mean? If I haven't done that work, you can go to school and be turned, you can become anything. You can now be doing gangbang, da. No, that can't happen unless, I remember when in my mind, excuse me, you want to do something wrong. I'm just thinking to myself, if my mum or dad could see this, it can never happen. That's what you want your child to feel. You want your child to feel this sense of like, no, I belong to something. And not to this school. It's not this jumper that I put on every day. I belong to, this is my surname. I bear this with pride. This is what my mum and dad expect from me. So wherever I go, whatever school I go to, this is what I'm going to become. For the people who are listening or watching and they're thinking, oh, what should I be looking for? What would, if I was going in and I was trying to find a new school for my child, which I will be doing probably next year, I'm looking at the curriculum, definitely. What are you learning? I'm looking at teaching and learning. How are they being taught? Who's teaching it? Who are they teaching to? What's the community like? What are your values? And if you have values, are the values just words that we have on the front of the school? Are they, or can I feel them? So if you say belonging or family or excellence, if you say excellence is your value, as soon as I step on that soil of your school, I better feel like things are excellent.
Yeah, for real.
Because then it's just, because I know how values can work at times. It's just things that are not, they're not experienced, they're just said. These are the things that I feel like as a teacher, I will be instinctively looking for. But I don't think it starts with the school. I think it starts with me. And that's why I'm doing the work to become the best parent I can be. So that whatever school you go to, you're going to be a success.
That's an amazing viewpoint, man. And I totally agree. I feel that it starts with home because that experience of, if it doesn't start with home and you don't have that foundation, a lot of students go into secondary school and there's that vulnerability of, if you don't have that strong foundation, that you're still like susceptible to being molded and influenced by the cultures and the things that's, happening within the school. And I'm saying that as a reflection of my own experience. I feel like yes, we had a strong foundation at home, but it wasn't strong enough that I wasn't influenced by school. Like anyone who went to my school, like growing up at that time, like St. Bon's, all boys school, we knew like badge on chest, like I'm a Bonds boy. And within that being a Bonds boy, like you've got your crews, you've got this, and that was my community. And it's like, man, what do you mean I can't go out with my friends? These are the St. Bonds boys. Like what do you mean? It didn't make, it didn't make sense to me. But it's those same boys, it's those same cultures, those same influences that, if the foundation's not strong enough, it's leading you to go,
Exactly.
Left, right, and centre. So that was just an interesting viewpoint. I want to reflect as well whilst we talk about, like parenting and education. You spoke earlier and you mentioned, at times like you'll be in the office till 8 p.m. And I've said in a previous podcast on a previous episode that's what I used to do. Like I used to get kicked out by the cleaners. Big up Romero. I know he's not watching, but
the cleaners are the heart. They're the heart and the soul of the school.
He'll be like,
they're good people.
Mr. Yannick, it's time.
Be going.
It's time. How do you balance parenting and being like an educator, because you just can't give 100% to both effectively. So how do you balance that now?
I think before I became a parent, I was very clear that once I didn't know who I was going to be when I became a mother. I didn't know if I was going to decide I didn't want a career anymore. So I said, I'm going to spend the years that I'm not a mother being the best in my career and going as hard and as high as I can. And I gave it everything. So when I was doing the 8 p.m. stints, I was just married, actually, before I'd gotten, just married. It was only my husband. No offense to him. Sorry, babes. But like, he's fine.
Yeah.
He's not dependent on me. Do you get? But like, I knew that once I became a parent, I might not be able to do that. Now, it's really interesting because my husband really had concerns because he's like, you put school first. You put these other children first. What are you going to do when we have children? He didn't trust that I'd be able to adjust my priorities once I had a child. And I'd say to him, don't worry, like, I'll be good. But even I was a bit afraid, like, what am I going to do? But as soon as I had my child, everything shifted. And my job, that became my job and not my life. And my life then became making sure that this child has everything that they need in order to flourish. And if that means I need to be present, I need to find a way to be present. And so I became really efficient. I don't have time to waste. You know, some people go to work and they're talking. I don't talk. I'm there to work.
Yeah.
Every hour is accounted for.
Yeah.
Every single time. When everyone's trying to take me, of course, I'm so sorry, I've got a deadline. I'm so sorry. I work from the time I get in, and I can't get in as early and I can't stay as late. So every hour is accounted for, and I just work as hard as I can, and I have my firm boundaries. This is the work that I do. This is the job that I do, but it's not the life that I have. Whereas before, but I've given it my life before. When I was training, you think 8 o'clock is bad? I would training my first year where you don't know how to do a PowerPoint. You're just trying to figure out how to teach. I would get to work at 6 a.m. And I wouldn't be the first there, by the way. And that's a whole different kettle of fish. We're talking about culture, because what do you mean it's 6 a.m. and you're not the first in the building? But I'd get there at 6 a.m. It's my first year. Start my work. I'll work all the way till 7. I'll go home, eat, have my food, go upstairs, start working again. And I'm working till 10. And I did that for the whole year.
Wow.
You know? And so it's like, now I don't feel like I have to do that. Now I feel like things should be not necessarily easier, but I should be better, right? I don't have to spend 3 hours planning a PowerPoint in the way that I used to have to. Now I just know how to teach, how to make sure they're learning, how to assess learning, and make sure my kids know exactly what we're doing. And in terms of leadership roles, I just need to make sure I am supporting the people that I have been chosen, I've been called to support in the best way I can.
Yeah.
And that's how I balance both.
No, that's important. That's important because I feel when the year that my son was born, I'd started a new job and my son was born literally 2 weeks later. And I always reflect and I say to myself, if I was still head of year, like working at the school, whilst my son, had been born, and like the same things that we experience within, the home and, supporting him and whatever, like essentially like the last 2 years, I don't think I could have coped with doing that whilst at the school. I would have struggled, and one of the two would have been impacted.
Yeah.
Either like the family time, like growing up, spending time like with my son and whatever else, or the work that I'm doing in the school. Like one of the two would have been impacted. And I think, I'm blessed to be like in a role now that, offers like somewhat of like flexibility. It's not that rigid. I'm not staying, until late doing parents' evening, information evenings, open days, into like whatever meetings like having to do like in the evenings, or like starting crazy early in the morning. And the travel was far. So if I'm even considering where I was traveling to go into work and then coming back home, but I could have days, especially, during the early period when he was still young, like you might not even be able to see him and spend time with him. And for so many other people listening, like they will resonate with this in terms of figuring out that balance of being a parent and an educator, or a parent in any sort of workspace, and having to balance the work. And I think it's important for workplaces, employers, even us as individuals, to really be intentional with like what we want and how we want to navigate the way we live. Because one of the things I was very intentional about when I was ready to leave my role is that I prayed and I said, God, not only do I want like a role that's more money, but I want a role that offers some flexibility, and I also want it to be closer to home as well.
Wow.
So it's
Very
like
specific in your prayer.
like everything that
checklist.
I asked for, like
You got.
I got. Because what's the point in saying, cool, I just want more money, but then the job is still far away and I'm having to do that, like make it make sense, and having to sort of navigate that space. So that was very insightful.
Just before we move on, I do think one of the complexities of being, because you mentioned any parent in any workspace, but I think what's ironic about us is that we look after other people's children, we love on other people's children, and that's what makes it feel so unfair at times when you're thinking, oh, hold on a minute, when I don't see my child before she goes to bed and I've seen all these other children, I've looked after all these other children, because people don't talk about the love that you're giving these children if you're doing this role, certain roles in school. I think that's what makes it even more complex.
Yeah.
And I know that you didn't take the decision to leave lightly, because if you're telling me that you're playing basketball and you're playing football and they're taking you, some of them are taking you like a father, even though you're young.
Yeah.
Definitely like a brother, definitely like a cousin, definitely like an uncle. They're taking you like their own. And you've got to decide, okay, do I take care of my own or the people that feel I'm theirs? And so as I was writing last week, like anybody that decides to leave the education space, I understand. If you decide to stay, I understand. If you decide to leave, I understand, because there is, it gives you so much, but it takes so much from you as well. And you have to make really hard choices. Like, who am I going to choose here? Am I going to choose my family? Or am I going to choose my community?
It's difficult.
That's an impossible decision.
No, it is. Definitely. When I was thinking about, when I started the podcast, I think this might have been early days. I might not even have had like an episode out, but it was just like in the making, and I was thinking, who am I gonna have on the podcast? And I was speaking to like my sister-in-law, and then she was like, "Oh, like you should get Joy." I was like, "Oh, who's Joy?" Bearing in mind, at the time I wasn't on social media, so I don't have like a personal thing. So I've just created social media for this purpose alone. So I was like, oh, cool. Like, who's Joy? Joy Mbakwe. Have you not heard of her? I was like, no.
I'm not. Oh my God, I'm shy.
So then I've gone on your Instagram page, and I'm like, cool, decent amount of followers, but it's not just about the following, is it? It's about the content. So I've looked into the content, and I'm just like, yo, this girl's talking, like she's talking. Some of the content, I'm like, wow. And some of the other content, I'm like, yeah, that's wild. I would have never said that publicly. But it's, you're saying the things that, need to be said, like you're engaging, the audience, you're being, outspoken, you're being an advocate. And I wanted to get a bit of an understanding, like how has social media been able to allow you to amplify your voice and your advocacy?
Well, it's interesting because I've been doing this work for a while now. When George Floyd was murdered, I was appointed as head of English, and I was appointed on the basis that I would change the curriculum to be more representative of the students that we were teaching. And in that year, I applied to be a pioneer for Lit in Colour, an initiative created by Penguin to diversify the text in the classroom. And I wrote in an application, and they used parts of my application on their report that they published. I was interviewed as part of their report. And then I was interviewed by BBC, by Sky. There's lots of I've written various articles. So I've kind of been talking for a long time. I guess this is year 5 of me talking. But I've never put a camera to my face and said, I'm going to be the person who controls what's being said about me. Normally I write something, it's sent to an editor, and I have to read it back and see if that's what I wanted it to be said, or BBC or Netflix will change what I've said and, you know, editing. But this is just me. It's unfiltered. How has it changed what I've done? The message and the essence of the person is the same, I feel. And especially people that know me personally are not surprised by what I say. No one is shocked. My dad goes on my. He was reading my comments yesterday. He's not like, oh, what's this? Like, why? They know what I'm about, right?
Yeah.
But now, I can get 1 million views on a video, hundreds of thousands of views. I don't even like to look at my view count sometimes because I find it overwhelming. What do you mean this has 500,000 views? That has been viewed that many times. I can't comprehend it. And that's the difference. That now I was speaking to people who were kind of aligned to what I was saying, who understood it, right? Imagine we would have crossed paths at some point. We've probably crossed paths before and we didn't realise. In school, if I'm leading training, everybody kind of understands what I'm about, my friends, my family. Now I'm interacting with people who do not have a reference point for someone like me. They don't know that Black women can be educated, that we can be school leaders, that we can be respected. That is foreign to them. On top of that, they don't know that people like me can exist in the education space, that I can be someone who can teach their child. This can cause all sorts of problems in the hearts and minds of people who don't believe that I should be speaking. I didn't anticipate this. And that's what I'm dealing with now. So in terms of the message, in short, the message hasn't changed. I'm still what I've always been.
Yeah.
But the reach is so much greater in terms of this amplification.
Yeah.
That is intimidating for me at times, to the point that I have to, when it's time to post, come on, all right. I don't know if it's going to go. The things I think people are going to like, it can get 600 views. The things that I forgot about, that can be the thing that I wake up to thousands of new followers. And I can never not be surprised by the reach of social media. And you just have to be, what I'm learning in this space is you have to be able to live with what you've said. And you have to, I watch it again to make sure if it's ever played back to me, yeah, that's what I think. That's still what I think. Yeah, that's truth.
Yeah. No, that's powerful, man. And I think, you know, I've said this like time and time again, like we've got this platform of social media and it's about, you know, using our voices for something that's significant, using our voice for things that, you know, are purposeful. And it's not to say that there's, you know, content out there that people won't engage with, that, you know, for them it just might be a laugh around, oh, you know, this person's body count, or how can I do this and how can I do that, and whatever else. And some people might not want to listen to or resonate with, you know, our content, but it's you're delivering key messages, and you've just got to keep pushing and keep, you know, being purposeful and keep, you know, sort of breaking down those barriers. And I think, you know, you're doing an amazing job at that. And one of the things that I'm really conscious of, especially on this platform, is whoever, you know, I have on as a guest, it's about how can we get the audience, how can we get our community to have discussions around, you know, these key areas of education, which is like so much linked to our personal lives. Like people will be listening to this and saying, do you know what? Yeah, man, like parenting, balancing parenting and education, or being a teacher was difficult for me. It's good to hear this because, like, you know, I didn't speak to anyone about it at the time. Or they could be going through it now and thinking, actually, I need to speak up and say to someone that I'm struggling and I need help. But it's about encouraging, you know, these conversations, which is important. And I want to move on now and think about, okay, like you're on this amazing, you know, trajectory where, you know, your voice is being amplified, you know, you're getting crazy amount of engagement, you know, followers and whatever else. What's the legacy that you're wanting to leave behind?
That's a really good question. I haven't thought about the legacy. In terms of what I want to be known for, I want to be known as somebody who protects young people, who stands for young people. I want to be somebody that is known in our community that advocates for young people and cares about them. And so anything that I do will be informed by that mission. In terms of legacy, I think legacy, sometimes people can become quite consumed with having a legacy to the point that they have children to ensure they have a legacy, something that's left behind. But I think if you're living in purpose and you're doing what you are called to do, what you've been mandated, what you've been put on this earth to do, you don't have to worry about leaving a legacy, because that will just be a natural outcome of your outpouring and your service. You know, so when I was creating that curriculum, I wasn't thinking about my legacy, but that is my legacy, right? It's already there. It's set in stone. We know it's documented. If you can go on Netflix and see that work that I did, where I said to my kids, listen, it doesn't matter what they say about how you speak out there. In here, your language matters. That is legacy. And no, it wasn't for them. It was always going to be, it was as in the people who were watching, it was always for my students.
Yeah.
But that's there now. You know, it's entrenched. It can't be taken away from me. But I don't think, I'm not thinking about legacy. I'm just thinking about, who am I called to? What am I called to do? Let me do that excellently for as long as I can.
Yeah.
And then when it's time to be done, that's it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you. What's one piece of advice you would give to someone who's just, studying and thinking about going into teaching, or in like their first year of teaching? Like, what's just one piece of general advice that you would give them?
I think two things I would say. The first one is always be a learner. Remember that you are a learner before you are a teacher. Your students have a lot to teach you. Don't forget that. And take every lesson as a learning opportunity. What worked, what didn't, but who it worked for. How did they respond? How are you interacting with them? Who have you decided you're going to write off? Who have you decided? All of that, let them teach you about yourself outside of the classroom and inside the classroom. And the second would be, it's not about power. It's not about power. You have the power just by virtue of your position, but it's not about that. It's always about relationships. So thinking about, how can I build the relationships? Because when you build the right relationships, you don't even need to be thinking about power. The kids are going to do what you want them to do. if you have shown them that you want them to do what is right for them, not what is right for you. And that's what people always getting wrong in the classroom. I'll sit here. Why? Why do you want them to sit there? Because you've got a seating plan that you made up at 9 o'clock at night and you think it works. Yeah. What about their autonomy? What about your trust in them? How can you negotiate what you want with what they want? Sometimes you're going to have to lose a bit of power to gain that relationship, but it's worth it and it is rewarding once you get it right.
Yeah. And what's been... And I know, like, our role as educators is very tough, and we don't always get to celebrate the amazing things that we do. Or sometimes we don't feel that we're celebrated for the amazing things that we do, whether that's by our peers, the senior leadership team, parents, children, etc. What's been like one of the most rewarding moments of like your teaching career so far? That's something that you think back and you're like, you know what, I'll never forget this.
I think a couple. One was when I organised a day and we had the girls learning self-defence. Like, they got self-defence lessons. I was like, yeah, I'm onto something here. Yeah. The girls learning how to, like, they were running and attacking these people and learning just how to defend themselves. I was like, yeah. And in the other room, the boys are doing yoga. Everybody's learning different ways to express themselves. Yeah. That was a good day. And then we were offered an opportunity to see Hamilton. And I was able to, in my role at the time, I was able to give my students an experience for free. I'll never forget that day. The kids they were just staring at they were staring at the stage. They were enthralled. And the fact that I was able to gift them this, they didn't pay for anything, have this experience, just seeing what the power of like my love, my commitment, our relationship that we'd built, because I'd known them since they were a bit younger. I think they were in like sixth form at the time, by like, I don't know, maybe like 16, 17, but I'd met them maybe in like 13 or whatever. I thought to myself, wow, we've really built something here. And this is a moment that we've been able to share. And barriers, like tickets to Hamilton are like £100. They can't afford that, you know? But now we've gone together because someone like me exists in education.
Yeah.
I think that for me is incredible.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. And I think, you know, it's just, yeah, it's making me reflect and really miss, you know.
You miss it a bit, don't you?
Yeah, I miss it. But it's just, it's the students. But it's those moments. It's those moments that you give the students. And I always say, beyond the classroom. Because like my role was, you know, pastoral head of year. I looked after 2 year groups, and it was, you know, non-teachers. It was a lot of like behavior management, safeguarding, and whatever else. But and obviously the disciplining every now and then. But I think for me it's just difficult to pinpoint, you know, moments for me that were rewarding, but moments that definitely, you know, that I miss was just spending
being with
time.
them. It's being with them.
You know,
they just come to your office and they're just talking.
Just come to my office, like,
talking.
let's chat, or, you know, they've got football matches. I used to go to like girls' football match. They're not even in my year group, but they're like, sir, like we've got a match.
Stop it.
Like I'm coming, like, yeah, go on, like, like supporting them, and
it's magical, you know.
It is. Like going to debate club. Like,
it's just beautiful. It's beautiful. And I think
Mr. Pope used to run the debate club. It was me, him, you know, in there a few days.
It's beautiful. I think that so many people have told me that they wouldn't become a teacher, and I'm like, you don't know what you're missing.
Yeah, they don't. You
don't know what this is. This thing is, it's magical. And I say that as someone who is sometimes a bit cynical. You know, I actually think this is one of the most fulfilling things I have ever done. It's one of the best decisions, if not the best decision that I made. And just to circle back to when I was so grieved because I felt like I was meant for the stage, and then I was going to the classroom, I was like, the stage could never give me what I got from these students. They have changed my life forever. What they gave me in terms of my perspective, my passion, my output, my purpose, there's no applause that's like that.
I couldn't have gone to another school.
Wow.
You know, for me, it's like,
I understand.
You know how, you know, in football, in terms of someone's like, oh, you know, I played in the Premier, like I managed the team in the Premier League.
Yeah.
I can't manage another team in the Premier League. I've got to go.
Yeah. That's how
I couldn't have gone that. Like my school was, you know, my school, like, because it was the first school that I worked in. And, you know, like the parents, the teachers, like everything was just, like it was amazing. And even when I speak to the students now, and I'm just like, damn, like you've grown like so much. And the way you're just talking, and I'm thinking,
it's like, you're not, aren't you the
same kid
one?
that, I'm sure you owe me the attention or something, you know, but you know, that's just amazing, man. That's just amazing. And I think just to finish off with, what does the future look like for Joy Mbakwe? Is there any because you've been talking BBC, Sky, Netflix deals? Is there any?
Nothing is in the pipeline at the moment where that is concerned. I think that like I said to you, in terms of legacy and what I believe I'm here to do, last year I was creating content like somebody was chasing me. I'm putting out 5 videos a week. I'm everywhere. I'm just building at the moment. I don't know what I'm building towards, but I'm building. I don't have a dream. I'm not thinking about a career in content creation. That's just not what I was like. I am a teacher, And so whether the camera is rolling or it's not, I am a teacher. In the classroom, on the internet, I'm a teacher. I'm just here to teach. And so I'm going to keep, I can see here when I realized I was going to be in the classroom, I didn't know that I would one day be teaching the parents too. I didn't know that. I didn't know that I would be one day be teaching other educators. I didn't know that people would be looking to me of all ages to teach them about just about education and then beyond. And so in terms of what is next, I just need to keep building. I just need to keep responding to the call that I have been responding to since I was 21, which is to teach. Just keep teaching. And then whatever comes from that. But BBC, Netflix, if you want to come, that's okay.
Yeah.
But that's not why we're doing this. We're doing this because of purpose. We're here to teach. We're here to learn. Let's just do that.
No, that's important, man. That's important. And I think, you know, like when your foundation is like your purpose, like you're just gonna have a drive that, you know, you just keep going and pushing, you know, no matter what. And I think that's something that I've found even doing this platform, because there's been, you know, and I've mentioned it in previous podcasts, there've been people that have said, you know, people are not really going to look into like, you know, the podcast, or they're not really going to engage with, you know, the content. But when I've got like youths from my church that are like, oh yeah, and I saw your podcast, it's amazing, like keep it up. Or like I did an episode with a former student, I shared it around with like some young people from like my church and other young people that I know, and someone messaged back and said, you know what, I've been going back and forth with what I want to do in September, and this just gave me like a bit of clarity. Or students hitting me up or whatever else, or people messaging me on LinkedIn, and, you know, all of these sort of things. For me, it's just like I know my purpose. So I'm not really looking at the algorithms. I'm not really looking at,
I understand.
oh, I'm putting something out there to be controversial or clickbait or what. No, I'm just here to educate. Like, you're gonna engage with it or you're not. And, you know, Ray Seafer, who I had on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, is a life coach, and he was like, Jan, like your flock's gonna come to you. And that's what I've been seeing. I've not asked, when I started this, I didn't ask like friends and people to like engage with the episode, not the episode, sorry, to engage with like the podcast by force. You know, it's like, yo, man, I've just started a business, everyone follow my t-shirt page. Nah, man, and this is what I'm doing. Whoever wants to engage with it, engage with it. And, you know, your flock will come to you. And, you know, that's what like inspires me. And actually, the last question before we definitely finish off is, like, how do you stay inspired and motivated, like, within education? Because it's draining. It's draining.
I hear you. I think about, how many years ago is it now? 2017, so it's like 8 years almost. I decided to go to the gym, and I'm like, I'm going to go. I'm going to keep going. Rain or shine, I'm there. I'm there like 6 times a week, 7 times even. And through pregnancy, postpartum, anything, I'm still in the gym. I worked out this morning. I'm going to go gym later. I believe in discipline. I don't believe in motivation. I don't believe in that. I don't ever feel like working out. I've never woke up in the morning and been like, I want to work out today. Discipline. I'm just here to do what I said I was going to do. That's it. And so people do often ask me, like, how do you keep up? How are you consistent? So I said, wow, Joy, so what, you can work out 6 times a week, but you can't read your Bible? That's interesting. Let's see if you can read your Bible. So I read the Bible cover to cover for a couple of years straight, maybe 3 years straight. I said, oh, you can do that. So I just take that discipline from the gym and apply it to any area that I want to see growth in. So I've said to myself, I'm going to post. Last year it was intense. This year I've said, you're going to post twice a week. That's what you're going to do. And there are no excuses. Why didn't you post? And people often struggle outside. It's interesting. People hate school, right? But you loved it because you were accountable. So therefore you were productive. Now you're outside of school, you're not accountable to anybody, so you haven't done anything. You haven't achieved anything. You haven't achieved the things you wanted to achieve because there's no one pulling your ear and telling you, why didn't you? Here's a detention. You hate it, but you loved it. I don't need anybody to give me a detention to get stuff done. I just need to get it done. So in terms of motivation that doesn't exist, I'm going to post tomorrow. So I record at least 3 videos a week. I've got like 50 videos saved. I don't know what I'm doing with them. Some of them, I don't even use them. But it's just go and record. Go and have it. That's that. In terms of inspired, I try and stay reading. I'm reading it all the time. I'm always thinking about things. I think that's harder than the motivation, the strand of discipline. Like, how do I know what to speak about? But I have to always be listening to things. I'm listening to you. I'm learning from you. I'm going to be thinking about this conversation. I might have a video after this conversation based on what I've learned from you. I'm reading all the time. I'm observing things. I'm listening into conversations on Twitter. Like at the moment, people are talking about, UK hairstylists. I'm listening to that conversation. What can I learn from this? Can I speak on this? Is this for me? It might not be for me, but I'm going to learn from it. And that's how I make sure between discipline and keeping my finger to the pulse, staying well read and well informed, I think I bring these things together and try and execute every week.
Yeah. No, that was amazing. Thank you for that. Thank you again, Joy, for joining us on this episode. This has been the Too Cool for School podcast. If you like this type of content, please subscribe to our YouTube page and follow us on our social media platforms.